what happened to make this a reason to do it this way? Like, the premise, sure. I guess you kind of have to shoot underwater. But you probably could have gone the route of other Bond films and just had it on land.
It was the vision. Like, they had it in their heads that they wanted a spectacular underwater battle.
It is.
And
pretty spectacular.
It certainly tries to be. Oh man, I hope you notice what I notice. Should come up very soon.
Karate chop underwater.
There it is. That's what I wanted you to notice.
Very effective at 1/5 the amount of force that would actually be.
Oh my goodness. He was studying those zebra shrimp long before anyone else was. Hello and welcome to Potato Chip Pictures, a podcast about movie franchises, and right now we are living in the Bond franchise, 007 from Eon Pictures. It's a good time. We've already experienced Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and Goldfinger, so give those a listen. But right now, I am B. Sammy Davis.
And I am Justin.
And we watched Thunderball, some of us more recently than others.
But what is a Thunderball? Is this supposed to be like a thunder clap? Like a thunder bolt? I'm like, I have never heard this description in any other part of my life.
I mean, it is just the name of the special operation that all of MI6 is on, but I don't know why. I don't know where it gets
I feel like there
name.
must be some context, because then like the song intro, I mean, we'll get there, but the song intro uses it, and the song can't be referencing the operation, can it?
I mean, he's Thunderball.
Yeah. Like, is this an adjective? Is this a noun?
I have no idea, but
I don't know how to use it in my future context of language, but maybe I won't ever have to.
I mean, let me jump the gun a little bit and say, I don't think I will. I did not love this movie. This might be my least favorite of the ones we have watched so far.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, this is the one that I'm like, I don't know.
I'm trying to put a place on where I would think it lands, because there's a lot of extra bits that which one felt really sidetracky? Russia with Love, I felt like had side quests. This one, it was the plot, but the plot was just so long.
Well, let me start with a correction from last week, and that is that I said when we listened to the theme song, I said I liked it, but not enough to put it in my liked songs. And I have had it stuck in my head ever since then. And so it has gone into the liked songs now.
Well, that's last week's song. What about this week's
exactly. Song? This week's song is not going to ever go into my liked songs. It's never, I all respect to Tom Jones. I think I have one or two songs of his that I enjoy, but this is not one of them. I do not like the Thunderball theme song at all. I mean, this movie, I feel like this movie in particular proves that you can have all the ingredients of a great meal and still not know how to put it together. And because this has everything that a Bond movie should have, except it's not good.
Yeah, I don't know that I can say that it's more coherent than bombs are stolen, bombs are retrieved. That's a pretty simple plot. There's a couple of things that felt like they got satirized. I mean, we'll get to there, but man, it felt like pieces of this are what aided Austin Powers and a couple of other ones.
Well, big picture, there are some things to like, even in a bad movie. And in this movie in particular, for most of their indoor sets, Ken Adams, the set designer, hit it out of the park. It is wonderfully designed. It is bizarre and ostentatious, but that's why I love it. Like it's so impractical to have a giant wall-sized map just to show one big circle. But I love that it's there.
Oh yeah, that one.
It's just that all throughout this movie there are indoor sets that are so striking and so interesting to see, and that to me is the highlight of this movie. If you want to see some of the best set design in 60s cinema, look no further than Thunderball from 1965. Do you want to know what the budget for this movie was?
What, twice as much as the last one?
It was twice as much as the last one.
Boy.
The last one was $3 million. This one was $6.8 million. Could have been.
I thought that was probably
higher
from the underwater sets, but I don't know how much. And that's.
Oh, you know what? I've seen two different budgets because I also saw a $9 million budget elsewhere.
The only time I really noticed the set, quote unquote, is because of it being underwater and being like they probably had to make these little gate things and put them underwater.
Yeah. With what looks like plywood particle board, or it looks like church board. Because I always see that like board with holes on it in churches. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about structures or architecture or anything like that. But yeah, the underwater stuff, that's essentially a second movie because they hired another film crew that specialized in underwater filming. And I think they mostly did documentaries. So they were taking a risk by taking on an action movie, and about 30 to 40% of this movie takes place underwater. So
I was wondering what the percentage was. It's a lot of underwater. Yeah. I felt like there was some other reason for it. I was curious if when scuba was really put into mainstream, if this was like,
I don't know,
something that would be normal to us as being normal to the time period. Like if what's something like if you put drones into a James Bond film, but they look like the drones that you have commercially available.
Yeah.
Instead of some teeny tiny cool awesome thing. Like
scuba wasn't really like mainstream until like the 2000s, I think. I think it's always before then it was always a very niche, expensive hobby. So
they did do well with the rebreather that looked like episode 1 Star Wars.
Yeah, the Jedi rebreather. I love it.
It's like perfect. I forgot that it was not
just repainted,
I mean, I don't know that it isn't actually capable of letting him breathe because he was using it underwater. I'm curious if it was, like, I don't know that it didn't actually work. I assume that it's a prop, but he was underwater with it. I also want to know how much was a stunt double underwater, because one shot looked like it was not Sean Connery.
Yeah, and I do not know on that one. They all the behind the scenes that I saw mostly just raved about the fact that they even did all that underwater shooting. They were very proud of themselves. But it came away with $141 million.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so equivalent, we're looking at them spending well, I don't know the equivalence on spending because I've got two different numbers on budget, but the return would be roughly $1.4 billion today. Like,
man,
that's a pretty good box office return.
Yeah. I don't know exactly which ones do a billion, but like Harry Potter, I assume.
Oh yeah. There's big action movies. I mean, I don't think the term blockbuster existed yet because that didn't really happen until Jaws, but 007 certainly would have been within that ballpark. You know, they would have been the grandfather to the box office, as it were. And people seem to like this movie. Well, Rotten Tomatoes seem to like this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a 6.9 on IMDb, 85 on Rotten Tomatoes, and 64 on Metacritic. I think that's high, personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could get into the things that we liked because I do like the second half. I don't know if it's before the actual intro song or not. Like jetpack fighting. I actually don't know what any of that has to do with the rest of the movie, but I do like the villain there.
Sorry. Yeah. And I apologize for interrupting, but this intro is a bit more connected than Goldfinger. Where Goldfinger, they had this idea that they were going to have one little micro mission that had nothing to do with the bigger plot. This one is like, well, it turns out this was a Spectre higher up and it is connected, but the intro really just kind of exists to make you think, oh no, James Bond is dead. It's a funeral for JB. Oh. Who else but James Bond could it be? But it's...
I didn't get that at all.
It's the very first thing we see, like after the reverse assassination. That's still what I'm calling it. And this time it's definitely Sean Connery in there. I don't know if it was last time, but it's definitely him this time. The circle kind of zooms into a JB and then it spreads out and we're at a funeral and oh no, and then it turns out it's not really Bond. It's this other guy that has the initials of JB and but oh no, he faked his death and
okay. I mean,
it's still meant to feel like
it's him.
Just an opening thing, you know? Like, let's get right into the action. Here's a fight, and then we'll go to credits.
I am not very good at remembering all this because I just remembered him starting to fight after having observed, oh, that's not actually, he's not dead. I completely missed it being possibly him.
This is a theme that we'll return to very shortly. The concept of, oh no, James Bond is dead. But this time it really is a misdirection because it's just someone else who has the initials JB. And they'll name him a few times. It's, I don't know, Jacques Bouchard or something like that. Like, I have no idea what his name was, but he has a number. He's part of Spectre. So there is more of a connection than we had in the last movie where it really was its own thing. Can I tell you what I think this movie is?
What?
I think this movie is to Goldfinger what Rise of Skywalker is to The Last Jedi. because we return with Terrence Young, the original director of the first two movies, which means we're also returning to Spectre, and we're also returning to a lot of the things that he did that maybe he didn't like what Guy Hamilton did.
Interesting. See, that probably would have been noticeable if I knew more about it. Like if it was coming out to the theaters now. Oh, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Like, you know. But wait, it's not actually him. It's back to this other guy that loved the bigger villains. I'm happy to move to the villain part because it felt like a serious like satirization of Austin Powers, if it were backwards possible. Like, no.
Well, this is clearly where so much of Austin Powers starts to come from.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get other grand, ostentatious sets in the future that probably feel even more Austin Powers. But yeah, this one definitely feels like if you watch the original Austin Powers after watching this, you would be like, oh, yeah, I see it. They watched that and said, here, hold my beer. I like the visuals of the opening credits. I like, so far we have had a clear woman with stuff either projected on or behind or, you know, somewhere else. This time we've got silhouetted women, and so there's a lot more color, and there's
aren't they like
and there's
swimming?
You know,
I actually
scuba
didn't
dudes.
write it in my notes. It was not as striking to me.
Yeah, it's mostly swimming, and it's not. I don't know. We still haven't hit what I feel like is the Bond stride. And so I feel like I am grasping at straws when I say, like, these are okay, these opening credits.
I mean, okay as relative to Bond. Yeah, this isn't off the deep end. I mean, I don't even know what the intros turn into. I'm trying to recall, like, GoldenEye or any of the James guy. Whoever that Bond was that is later. Timothy. I don't know his name.
Timothy Dalton. Yeah.
We'll get to those ones and we can.
Yeah, and those do feel more Bond. Mm-hmm. And I also think about, like, what do you do with a theme song where the title is Thunderball? And had we recorded this, like 10 years ago not 10 years ago, just before 2012 when Skyfall happened, I would have said, yeah, if you get a dumb title, you're going to get a dumb song. Skyfall is a stupid title, but it has a great song.
It's a good song.
So there is no excuse for this Tom Jones number.
It's a rough song. I don't know that I want to ever hear it again.
Yeah. Yeah, it does not get stuck in my head. There are some nice Bond cues sprinkled throughout, but I don't like it. I just don't like it. That's enough. Songs I don't like, I can find a compliment. But I really do enjoy, you alluded to it, we go right into the Spectre base, the new Spectre base. It's not Spectre boat anymore. Now we're in a building. And I wonder if everyone uses the same secret entrance, or if, like, Spectre has purchased the whole block and every number has their own building where they enter through, but I don't know. I might be thinking too much into it.
Somehow they all arrive there.
Yeah. And nobody notices. And for some reason, number one, when he meets with all of his top lieutenants, he still obscures his face.
You're not supposed to know who he is.
Well, it's like in From Russia with Love, we only see the back of his head, but you know, the lackeys that are in front of him can clearly see his face,
Oh, yeah.
but no longer. The lackeys aren't allowed to look at him anymore.
And if you are stealing from us, we will push a button to electroshock and gas kill you. Like,
I mean, it's great. I actually love this Spectre scene of this terrible movie.
well, I mean, I did too. I was like, oh, this is familiar I haven't actually watched Austin Powers, but I know the villain sitting together with sub-villains and like killing them with a button.
Kill chairs and
I would almost expect Austin Powers to just kill the person in the chair, and then another chair comes sliding in with the replacement sub-villain.
I was a little disappointed that another person didn't just walk in, but there are a lot of empty seats suggesting that, the people Bond has killed have not been replaced and that other people just haven't been there. But from here, we learn that Spectre has a plan to steal atomic bombs from a NATO air mission. And the rest of the plot, I feel like it just happens to Bond. Like, he just happens to be at the same resort that the villains are hanging out at. And he just happens to run into the guy who is going to do the plastic surgery on the other guy. And everything is just so coincidental for Bond. And at this, on the one hand, that's very much how a lot of these movies are, where he's in the right place at the right time. But for some reason in this movie, it just rubs me the wrong way. I just get so mad.
Oh, I was trying to remember. I remember right now. He's like, they call him and he's like, oh, I see this thing. Like, well, you're on vacation. Oh, well, Bond can't get away from world-ending disasters, so let's put him on the job.
Be there. Yeah.
Oh, right. And then later on, what's his name? M. He's trying to send him somewhere else, and he's like, actually, I should go to this one because this is I saw stuff, and I came all the way back to London to go back to wherever I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah, we see so many other double O agents, but Bond is the one who's like, no. You got to reassign me. And I wonder, did he take someone else's assignment, or was that not on the table at all? And now some other agent has to take his original assignment just in case he's wrong. It's so frustrating, but I enjoy that we get the opening resort. There are a lot of funny pranks between Count Lipa and Bond, but the pranks are just that. They're just pranks. And so I don't know. I keep thinking at this point, everyone in Spectre knows who Bond is, but Bond keeps introducing himself as James Bond, and no one does anything about it.
They're just meant to be polite about it. I guess they want the adventure of being just evil enough and just ahead of Bond when they could just get rid of him. Yeah, I think I forgot her name. The evil lady says
Volpa?
Or maybe she'll kill him.
Yeah.
And it's
Fiona Volpa.
Somebody's actually committed to killing Bond. For real. That's okay, she'll go get it done.
She is my other favorite part of this movie.
Yeah, she's good.
And I do think she is a giant middle finger to Pussy Galore.
I can see
this
that.
is the other middle finger of this movie to the last movie. Because when she finally reveals herself to be an agent of
Right.
Spectre to Bond, she's like, oh, what did you expect? That we would sleep together and I would decide to go running to the police? And
I see that now. Oh, yeah, that is 100%. I agree that is the case, because that's what happened in Goldfinger. Oh, we
that's
fixed
what
it.
saved the day in that movie.
Yeah. This one, that's not going to happen. She's committed to being evil.
Mm-hmm. It is a shame that she's not going to make it to the end of this movie, because we get to see her on a rocket motorcycle when she blows up Count Lippe for they pronounce his name so many different ways that I'm going to attempt to pronounce it in multiple ways as well. So she's the one who gets to assassinate him. She's driving 100 miles an hour in the Bahamas. She's the one leading the goon squad when they descend upon Bond. Like, she is the best part of this movie in terms of villains. I love Fiona Volpe. So I will give this movie that credit. They did great with her casting and her character. I just love her.
I agree. I think when we first meet her, it's like I felt like she didn't feel immediately evil. And then I was like, wait, she's like the mastermind of this. And, I need more money. It's like, even I know you're not going to get that money.
Yeah.
Skipping ahead, but.
Dude. No, I actually did want to jump right to where the plot starts to thicken, because, we've had hijinks between Bond and Count Lippe.
Yeah.
They are equally trying to kill each other, but in, non-kill you ways where they can easily be rescued. Yeah. Or I'm going to put you on the machine that stretches your spine. And I don't know if that's a real machine, but why do these machines even have a danger setting?
Right.
Who is manufacturing this stuff?
Danger to human bodies. Yeah.
Let's put this in our human body machine.
Does that same guy exist throughout the whole thing? The medical equipment guy? I'm trying to remember. Does he die? Is he...
Count Lippe? He does die.
Okay.
So where he comes into this is he has done plastic surgery on someone. Number one will later reveal that he's the person who even chose this someone.
Oh.
And that someone is going to replace an Air Force, a NATO Air Force pilot named Derball. They have this terrible encounter where it just looks awful. He knocks at the door, Derball opens it and sees himself, and it looks so bad. But whatever, it's in the final movie.
It's what they had, I guess. Best. Yeah.
Yeah, it tells the story. It just looks terrible.
Yeah.
But this Angelo guy who is replacing Derball suddenly decides he's going to be greedy with Spectre. And that's like, it's the dumbest thing. Like, we know that Spectre kills themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, their main weakness is they don't just allow the good guys to kill them. They kill each other regularly. And this guy is going to step up and be like, I'm going to throw a wrench in your plan.
Oh, like that guy in The Dark Knight that's like, I found out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. It's like, and you decided you want to try and do something about that? Good luck. You're not getting that much extra money. You go get the bombs. But
good luck surviving.
Yeah.
Even if it's not Batman who's going to kill you, like, someone doesn't like that you know what you know. Someone doesn't like that you have a position of power on others, and Angelo falls right into that trap where he has decided he wants more money. But to the movie's credit, I do enjoy the hijacking, the airplane hijacking.
It felt like it had a plan.
Yeah. And it went through. The only part that makes me chuckle is when Derval, or Angelo, sorry, when he goes up to the co-pilot seat, the co-pilot takes his mask off to eat a sandwich. And then, like, Angelo immediately goes about his plan of poisoning everyone. And it's like, you just saw this guy eating. Can't you wait 5 minutes? But don't worry, he scarfed that sandwich down because he's got his mask fast on.
Yeah.
So that part is a little bit of a weakness, but I enjoy that we're going in and the plan works and they have the miracle landing on the water.
Oh yeah.
And
right where it needs to be.
And then I noticed that our main villain, Largo, during this entire sequence, when he comes in, he adds underwater to everything. Turn on the underwater lights. as opposed to what other lights? And then open the underwater hatch. What other hatch?
Yeah, it felt like they could have done this on an island and then still hid the plane and still hid the things, but it had to be underwater. Like, maybe all of this.
Yeah.
I guess you could transport atomic bombs more weightlessly underwater.
And I have no idea if it would damage the bombs to be underwater. Yeah. I just don't know anything about arms or, like, there's so many things where I'm like, okay, whatever. I guess it has to be.
Accept this reality.
Yeah. And I'll accept that they had to land in the water because, during the MI6 briefing, they mentioned that they've checked every airport that could handle a plane of this size.
Yeah.
And to your credit, that doesn't include private airports, where only one plane has to land. Like,
yeah, I don't know how you would make it land on an island, but it seems like that would be less difficult, and you'd get more dialogue of them. Oh, like, Aladdin and Jafar, this is your reward, not extra money. We're gonna stab you. Like, no, I'm gonna cut your air respirator and you're gonna drown underwater silently.
Basically. I like that too. I like it. That's my issue, is there are some of these underwater scenes that, like, yes, they could do it on land, but they're underwater. I understand drowning, so cutting someone's air supply, I'm like, yeah, I get that. And I don't know if these, like, clearly they had not planned for the seatbelt to be stuck, but it works. Like, Largo's in a position where he's like, I can either kill this guy and take all the money, or I could cut him free. But even if the guy had gotten free, he still would have been killed. Like, there's just no way Angelo survives. But really quickly, you said you saw like 5 Bond girls. One of them was probably in the very opening. We never get her name.
Okay.
All we know is that she works with Bond. And to this movie's credit, something. To the movie's credit, he has 2 female assistants, and he sleeps with neither of them.
That is true.
Because when we get to the Bahamas, his number 2, as it were, his closest assistant is someone named Paula. And she doesn't do a lot in this movie, but she does present this air of, she's supposed to be there. She's not someone who was just picked up. She is an agent. She is meant to be on the field.
In danger.
And so I liked her as well. Like, I wish she had more to do, and I wish that she had a bigger part. But again, to the movie's credit, there are some little pieces of subtle genius, and I think Paula could have been a really great thing. Like, if we had an equal to Volpe, who is this great villain, I would have loved to have a great hero female character. But
yeah,
Paula's fine. We get her. I like her.
I'm trying to tell. I actually have the Wikipedia and the movie poster pulled up, and it's Bond has 4 women next to him, and I think one of them looks like Domino, but I don't know about the rest.
Oh yeah, they definitely have to have Domino in that picture.
Interesting.
Okay, yeah, I see Domino, and then I think the brunette on the far left is Paula. I have no idea who the blonde is. Oh, she's the girl that
in
Bond,
the first
forces.
area. Yeah.
Yes, we completely forgot that Bond is back to his old inappropriate ways of forcing himself on women, and then they magically become okay with it afterwards.
I think. Yeah, that's.
I'm kind of mad that she's on the poster because that reminds me of that other stain on this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I wrote down that part. I remember being like, this doesn't... you could just let her keep working at her job and not have to do anything with you. And nothing would change about, like, what needs to happen in this movie. You could just not do that.
Everything that Bond does could have been done without forcing himself upon this woman who is in the health center that we completely blew over. But I'm glad I looked at that poster because that reminded me of the other terrible thing of this movie. Yeah, this movie does a lot of things wrong, and continuing to show that Bond can just force himself on people. And I think so many dudes took Bond to be a hero, including myself, to my embarrassment. Like, when I was younger, I thought that's what women liked, and so I would forcefully flirt and be kind of disgusting. And when I look back on it, I'm like, no, if I could go back in time, I would have slapped myself and said, this is not the way. Like, it's
yeah,
but that was the influence, I guess. So I guess if you're listening today, don't treat women the way Bond treats women.
No, it's a low bar, but we still need to enunciate it. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we're jumping all over again because it immediately made me think of when he threatened to spank Moneypenny.
Oh, yeah. I recall that.
There's just so many terrible things from this time period that were just normal and would definitely not fly today.
Yeah, it's something like a movie meant for people to go see and apparently earn $1 billion.
Yeah. Equivalent.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie made more than Spectre demanded in ransom. You know, they wanted $100 million for these 2 bombs to be returned, and the movie made $141 million. So
that's crazy.
Clearly being in Hollywood is better than being in villainy.
Yeah, like just go make a Bond movie. Yeah. Well, where are we? I've lost where we are.
Well, we saw the plane getting captured. We are now back in MI6 to get the mission briefing.
Oh, yeah.
Again, we get some inappropriateness with Miss Moneypenny, and like, it's all fun and I'm fine with it. I love the set when we get to the meeting in the conference room with all the 00 agents. Like, it's this towering room and like a mile from the speaker, there's this half circle table where where 10 00 agents sit, and as Bond sits in what I think is the 8th seat, maybe the 7th. I'd have to go back and watch it again. I think they index at 0.
That is so far.
There is a 000 out there.
That is a giant room. I just have it kind of playing at double speed in the background, and the giant circle map is amusing.
It is so impractical, and I love it. I love it so very much. It warms my heart every time we go to the conference room, and I think we'll never see it again.
Oh,
but I love it so much.
It feels like a even bigger area than the Star Wars Jedi Council room. They all get to sit there, but they're still close quarters, but it's empty of everything.
Yeah. And it also feels like maybe the ceiling is lower. I don't know. Yeah. But this is such a cavernous room. Like, it seems like the whole building was built around supporting this one giant chasm.
Is who they're talking to? Is it like the Army, the Navy, or is it royalty related? I can't remember.
Well, I think it's the equivalent of whoever's in charge of all the armed forces.
Oh.
Plus the Home Secretary.
Could be in context of maybe there's giant buildings of those actual people that are in charge of all the armed forces.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, I saw the movie Patton. I know that General Patton gave his greatest speech of all time in front of a 2-story tall American flag.
Oh. That's what the history books have.
Yeah, certainly what my movies told me. But yeah, I do love it. And Bond is given his assignment to Canada, but as we briefly mentioned, he's not having that. He wants to go to the Bahamas so he can make contact with Major Dervall's sister, Domino. And I have no idea. Oh, no. He sees a postcard that's signed from Nassau. Yeah. That's how he gets it. Because every time, like the first time I watched it, I was like, why the hell do you want to go to the Bahamas? Like, what made you? She's in a bathing suit, and so you immediately think she must be in the Caribbean.
I know where that is, based on the sun, based on the angle of the shadows.
But I think it does have her address on the back of it, so I'm willing to accept that. But in this movie, we do not get an airport scene.
Oh,
and I noticed that on my second viewing. I was just thinking like, oh wow, like we're getting further and further away from the airport. Like the first movie, we get an airport scene with a chase. Second movie, an airport scene with a following, but not a chase.
Oh, yeah.
Third movie, we're outside the airport. But this movie, no airports, man.
So we don't have time for air travel. It's only water or underwater.
Exactly. That is what we are focused on here. And that's why Bond is now in the Bahamas, underwater, rescuing Domino before she drowns.
Yeah. Tell me, there has to be a pretense for him to get a conversation with her because he's, not charming enough to just make it happen?
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing I keep thinking about. Like, I could accept that he came in and watched her for a while and then made contact, but this movie doesn't have time for that.
He found her underwater.
Spectre is going to blow up these bombs in like 2 or 3 days. And so Bond, I don't know how this is their first contact, but like, this is it. This is how he meets her. And he doesn't have time to meet her any other way, I guess. And yeah, it's... and then we get to the other parts of this movie that frustrate me so much.
Is it the card game?
Well, the card game I'm fine with because we're back to whatever that game
Baccarat.
is. I've already... Thank you. I'll learn what it is one day. I might even learn the rules one day just to impress people.
What's the frustrating part? I'm trying to remember.
that he keeps introducing himself as Bond, and I'm so frustrated that I couldn't even remember Largo's name for a minute. Largo, who is number 2 inspector, absolutely knows who James Bond is and doesn't do anything about it for this whole movie. Every time.
Fight him only at the end.
Yeah, and like every chance he gets to kill him, he's always like, oh, let's just play coy. And he'll invite him to his island as though they're just playing cat and mouse with each other. And who's the cat and who's the mouse? We'll never know. But I know that number 1 knows that James Bond, ever since killing Dr. No, he has known that James Bond is a threat to Spectre. And therefore, everyone in Spectre, I think, knows that James Bond is a threat to Spectre. So why do they play these games?
Doesn't the main number 1 guy say to like kill Bond or something in that initial layer? Like, maybe I'm misremembering, but I feel like
I mean, I am sure I heard him say that he would kill him, and to the movie's credit, when Largo decides to kill Bond, Volpa is the one who jumps in to say, no, I'm the one who has to kill him. And so I can accept that from that point on, Largo is not going to kill him because another Spectre agent has called dibs. So until Volpa is dead, I'm fine with saying, okay, for these parts of the movie, Largo stops trying to kill him. Except he doesn't. He still tries to kill him. And so, like, they're just playing these stupid games for this whole movie.
Well, I mean, it's wonder what you would call it, the just dumb action adventure movie. Because has to happen for some reason. Oh, in the background scene, his recording book next to the phone in his room. How did
Bond
that get there?
Finally checks a room. I guess I will give Bond that credit. But even before he can go, jump whoever has come into his room, he's going to meet Felix, and Felix is like, hello, 00, and gets punched in the stomach. And it's another Felix actor.
Yeah, and he can't have someone know 007, but everybody knows James Bond. What's the problem here, James?
I don't know.
Why can't you know that you're 007? Probably
only
already
Goldfinger
knows.
ever knew, apparently, because Goldfinger was like, there's very few in your profession. But, like, I guess Spectre can't know that there are other 00 agents.
I guess.
I don't know. It's so dumb. It makes me so angry.
Well, it's time for that guy to get jumped into the Shark Tank. As the best part of that section is, this is the first time I think someone gets fed to the sharks, and that stuck with me 100% without having seen this movie.
That was pretty dope. And the shark scene, the sharks in general, there are a lot of interesting things. You could go back to this movie and just watch the shark scenes and pick up something new every time, because there were a lot of close calls with actors, especially Sean Connery, where they thought that the sharks were in one place and they're filming Sean Connery, and then there's a shark in his face. And so I appreciate the sharks. I will give the movie its credit there. I'm okay with the sharks.
I'm not okay that they speared one. I'm like, I feel like that was probably, I don't know, domesticated, but even if it's wild.
Well, even then, they shot it and they cut away after blood starts coming out of it. So they really shot a shark. And this goes back to what I was saying, where, this is long before they stopped hurting animals to make movies. But animals had it on the other side. There were several close calls in this movie, and a few people almost got bit a few times. So, it goes both ways.
That part's fair. Sure.
Yeah.
All they have are their teeth.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'm good with the sharks, but I'm not good with how this movie treats the sharks, because we find out that where the nukes are being held and where we're going to have the final battle, that's supposed to be shark-infested waters, and sharks won't show up until the end of the fight. And there's so many things about this movie where they had a good idea and they can't follow through all the way. And the sharks that were introduced here, when they feed a man to the sharks, that makes you think like this is a cool idea, and they're going to forget about it very soon. And,
I think they briefly have it when he's found the plane. I remember seeing some sharks, but not as often as was expected.
Yeah. And that's that. And then the other thing that irks me about this movie, and in your double time speed, you're probably there now, is when Q shows up to give Bond all of his gadgets. I think the gadgets are weak. And then on top of that, the camera. So the watch is the Geiger counter. The camera takes underwater infrared pictures. He's got a flare to fire off, a one-time use flare, that breathing apparatus from episode 1, and a radioactive pill that will allow him to be tracked. But later on in the movie, the camera is also a Geiger counter. So not just the watch, the underwater camera is also a Geiger counter. And that...
It needed to be two things.
Yeah, because why give the girl his watch when he could just give her a camera that's very noticeable later in the movie? And this movie
wasn't your favorite in terms of...
It gets so close and disappoints so hard.
I think my expectations are low because it is very average. I think it suffers from the extended underwater. I think there's some good parts to that, but most
of it is long in the tooth.
Yeah, I enjoy Bond more on foot. Like,
I prefer Bond in air. Like I'll take any Bond over underwater Bond. And the very next scene is one of those probably too long underwater scenes where he is swimming to Largo's boat to take pictures, and it's like they could have cut just a bit, just trimmed a tiny bit, and it probably would have been more effective for me. But as it was, I was just like, man, he gets all the time in the world to take pictures. He even gets to kill a henchman underwater before Largo acts.
Before losing his hearing, sense of hearing from being grenaded. Like, I feel like that would kill. Oof.
And I don't know anything about underwater concussive effects. Like, I know that if you throw an explosive in a lake, it will kill like all the fish in the area.
Sure.
But I don't know why.
I think it's just more... The compression just hits harder, I think.
Just like the sudden pressure moving and...
Yeah. Like, I think where you can hear better, it's like stuff like that, like tapping on a swimming pool when you're underwater. I feel like a grenade would just be so loud. Oof.
Yeah, I guess I can give it that. And then... So I'll forgive it that, but I still don't love it.
No. Depth charge. Yeah.
I shouldn't be so hard on it because to me, it's a little more interesting than an underwater judo chop, or I guess a little more realistic. But for some reason, this whole sequence of taking pictures and running away from the baddies, I just don't like it. Like, why does Bond poke his head up when he's swimming away so the baddies see him?
See where he is. That's the only reason why.
Yeah, and does he want to destroy his scuba gear? Like, there's so much to this whole movie.
Yeah, it's the atomic warheads are still stolen. He's trying to find them. I feel like he just has to find them. The search is
okay.
Yeah,
I'm good with the search when Felix and Bond go out on the helicopter. To this movie's credit, this might be the best version of Felix of the three that we have seen so far.
Yeah, he actually does stuff with Bond. I'll admit that the helicopter pilot, I wasn't for sure that was Felix.
Yeah, it's our CIA buddy Felix Leiter, and I don't know if he's gonna be the same actor. I have no idea if they're gonna change Felix every time.
I mean, Bond stays the same, but then he switches. I feel like that would be a natural point when to switch Felix, but I guess just
so far we haven't.
Whenever you want.
Yeah, if you're gonna have him, have a different actor playing him. But I like this version of Felix. I can't remember the actor's name. It's like Guy Dolman, maybe. And I would love it if we had more of him. I just don't remember enough of these early Bonds to know if we'll see him again. But I enjoyed those scenes when they went out flying together and they'd hang out and be buddies and they'd go spy on Largo's island in their helicopter while Largo watches.
Yeah. Watches helicopter.
And he knows it's Bond in the helicopter. Like, ugh. So I was looking over the Wikipedia just to kind of make sure I was following the plot. And this is their description of essentially Bond and Largo's relationship. Bond and Largo engage in a cat and mouse game while feigning ignorance of each other's true identities. And that's pretty much the whole movie. Like, I know who you are. Well, I know who you are, but we're not going to say who each other are.
We're just waiting until the timer runs out and we can send off these atomic bombs or get our money. I feel like, I don't know how close the time came because they were moving the bombs, but they didn't. I don't feel like they were arming them fast enough or there was no plan for where to send them.
They were going to blow up Miami.
They
did say that. Yeah.
Okay.
So when they were moving the bombs at the end, I don't remember how Bond learns it, but when he meets back up with Felix, he's like, get on the horn and tell them the target is Miami. And they're moving the bombs from the ship, the Disco Volante, which is such a great name for such an ugly yacht.
And I guess,
but they're moving it from there to a harbor, and
the Bahamas to Miami is a 50-minute air flight. So
that would be a pretty good threat, you know.
I was not sure to expect how close it was. That makes it a little bit easier to be convinced that they unsubmerged them and could have been ready to detonate. It just didn't quite feel like, oh, it's so close. Oh, we got to make sure these don't go off. Why are you taking so long?
I feel like a lot of these movies were really impressed with their geography. And I'm not as good at geography as I was when I was a student in school. And so some of these movies, I have to pull up a map just to figure out where we are in the world. Because I'm like, for example, I knew the word Nassau. I knew it was somewhere tropical. I had no idea if it was in the Caribbeans or in the Pacific. Like, I didn't know. So I had to look it up to see that it was the Bahamas.
Not very apparent exactly where it is.
And maybe that speaks to, a dumbness of our generation ever since we have come to rely on the smartphone, where we just don't know as much as we used to know. And maybe an audience at this time, all of these words would have just been easy for them to know. Like Nassau, okay, that's a place where we go on vacation every once in a while. Like, it's so great there. Yeah. But not anymore. That's not today. So it's, I'm trying to think if there's any, there is a pretty okay scene at the Junkanoo celebration, which they compare to, like a Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah.
And I like that they were like, well, if we're going to do something in the city and we know that a bunch of people are going to show up to watch, what if we had like a parade? And there's a reason for a whole bunch of people to show up and watch. And so I'll give the movie that credit.
What? So for the movie, like while filming, this to get,
because you remember
extras?
when they were in Istanbul for From Russia with Love, anytime they tried to film outdoors in Istanbul, just hundreds of people would just show up and just stand in front of and stare at the camera.
So is the thing made up? Is the march thingy just for the film?
No,
like
it is
Mardi
a
Gras?
real. It's a real thing. So the Junkanoo is a real celebration in the Bahamas, but also in Jamaica, Belize, and even in North Carolina and Miami.
Goodness, you sound educated on this.
The internet is really handy.
You got a quiet keyboard over there.
Yep. So,
it was, this, because they go to it twice, don't they? At one point, he is captured. At one point, he's not.
So they go, the first time they go, it is as a ruse where Bond is going to escort Domino, because Largo can't, and so Bond's like, yes, I would love to do that. And while he's there, Felix shows up to tell Bond that Paula has gone missing. At some point, Volpa kidnapped Paula.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's their scene together, and it also does not pass the Bechdel test because they immediately start talking about Bond.
Yeah. I was about to ask the question.
First line.
But she gets kidnapped. She gets taken.
And she eventually takes a cyanide tablet. But, Bond leaves Domino. He eventually gets captured. He even has a chance to have some sexy times with Volpa, with Fiona. Like, he has fully left Domino at this celebration.
I'm trying to place it in my notes. Is this after the shark infested pool? There's Domino.
I'm trying to,
because they have to find out that Paula's dead.
Yeah,
but he finds out
that is when he falls
place.
into the falls into the shark, and he falls into the pool. They close the hatch and let the sharks in.
Mm-hmm.
And the very cool thing about this is when he's trying to open up the hatch for the thing, apparently the way it was planned was that he would open the hatch. He was essentially moving the hinges so that he could get his fingers and then open it and swim through, and then a shark would swim out. But a shark
was right
bolted. Yeah. So when Sean Connery swims backwards a little panicked, that is because he was not expecting a shark.
I would also be panicked.
Yeah. And when he finally gets through the tunnel and escapes the pool, one of the sharks nearly gets him.
Yeah.
It spots him and it starts beelining towards him, and it almost got his foot.
I thought that little attack scene was all interesting, just a fight scene, but he escapes with the opportunity to be like, oh, Bond is dead, so we don't have to worry about him anymore, when you weren't worried in the first place. Like,
it is a good escape. And, before he falls into the water, one of the things that I loved from that scene, because it catches me off guard, Bond is in the middle of, everyone's searching, and he shoots one of the guys. And I'm always like, why would you give your position away? But it's because everyone turns and starts shooting at each other. And Largo has to come out and be like, you fools, he's got you shooting at each other. And I think they even kill one of the other henchmen, just with random fire. And so I do like that we get to see these moments of brilliance out of Bond, where he can kind of manipulate the baddies. But, eventually he's able to leave, but he's captured by Vulpa because they sleep together.
I mean, to set the whole viewing experience of that, is he suspicious of her? I don't know. Oh, wait, he sees the ring. I guess he is suspicious of her. Oh, but they're gonna do it anyways. Well, and then, and
they're also in Paula's room, and so she's like, "Oh, they just moved me to this room. What a coincidence!"
Sure.
But I do laugh every time when they meet, and she says, "Will you give me something to wear?" And he gives her shoes.
Yeah,
I laugh at that. I think that is funny. I feel a little guilty about it, but at the same time, that is funny.
I think that it does that, where you said earlier she's kind of in opposition to Pussy Galore from the other one. She's evil, and so like they sleep together. And are we supposed to be conflicted about him and her both trying to, like, gain leverage in this relationship so that they can, like, betray the other one? I think you're just two people doing it. And
I mean, from Bond's perspective, that's what they are, except that she wears a Spectre ring.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even know that that's a Spectre ring. He thinks it's just the same ring that Largo wears.
Yeah.
But I did see that ring on Lipa on my second viewing of the movie. So it is a Spectre ring. So yeah, like from his perspective, he knows that she's with Largo, but I think... And the movie kind of points it out, like, as soon as they are done and Bond gets captured, they start insulting each other hard. Like, he's like, don't think I enjoyed that. I did it for king and country.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, Bond's precious ego. Like, you sleep with a woman and she'll hear heavenly choirs. And
that was a pretty good reverse of how the last movie, I guess, went down.
Yeah, like this. I love Volpa. I just love her. I think she's such a great villain. She should have been the Largo of this movie.
It's a shame she had to die then.
Yeah, but she captures Bond, and Bond accidentally escapes because it fully is luck that some guy shows up with what seems to be a bottle of Everclear, and he puts it into the window. Bond knocks it over and is able to use the lighter to catch fire and run away. But oh no, a baddie shoots him in the ankle. And that's important because Volpa is so good at her job, she's able to track his blood on the ground during this parade. And
this ankle will heal as soon as he's done with running away.
It's even more frustrating than that when he's done running away. So he's able to briefly escape by getting onto a float, and then he's able to briefly escape when they find the float by going to the Kiss Kiss Club, and he immediately beelines it to a bathroom, grabs
Oh,
a
yeah.
paper towel, gets it wet,
Wipes
and
the
somehow
blood away.
ties it. Like, he's able to just clean a wound with a paper towel.
Now I remember that. I had forgotten he walks into the bathroom. I mean, to their credit, takes care of it. I thought it just
He does.
went away.
Yes, but doesn't matter because Volpa catches Bond at the Kiss Kiss Club, and Bond takes a woman out onto the dance floor, and then Volpa cuts in, and the woman's like, "You should have told me your wife is here." And I was like, "Hey, lady, this is the 60s. Like, don't you know? Men just sleep with everyone these days."
Well, the 60s. Yeah. Seems like.
But everyone is closing in.
Who shot her?
I cannot remember. It was one of the goons, one of the henchmen.
But then the
It
goons
might have
run
been
away.
the super bald guy. Yeah, they all run away as soon as they shoot the wrong person.
Why? I'm like, that one didn't make sense. Where you said that a lot of stuff doesn't make sense of him getting away from getting killed. That was the only time that I was like, hold up.
The big one.
They ran away. I don't understand why they ran away.
We killed the wrong person.
Yep.
Run away. No one heard the gunshot.
Yep.
Run away.
Pretty sure we can just shoot again.
It's a clever line when Bond puts the dead Volpa down and says, "Do you mind if my friend sits here? She's simply dead." It's like, that's clever. That's clever. I like it. But now the person who wanted to kill Bond is out of the movie, so it's up to Largo to do it. And for some reason, Largo still lets Bond go swimming with Domino.
Yeah. I think after he tells her that her brother is dead after he retrieved the stuff, Vargas is there to actually kill him. Mm-hmm. And he gets speared, but it is... Yeah, like, why didn't he just go ahead and kill him? He let Domino take him out to kill him later. Almost kill him. Then Vargas gets killed anyway.
Yeah. And like, bang. I can accept that Vargas is the one sneaking around here, and it is Domino who points him out, and that's how he's able to get shot with the spear gun. So many spear guns in this movie.
I'm curious how fast they travel not underwater.
Yeah. Would they be faster or slower? Like, are they designed to be underwater and that's where they're most effective? Or I
feel like probably. I don't know.
Yeah. I just don't know enough about weaponry or,
it's like those little
spear guns.
Swimming pool darts that you can throw and they glide better. I feel like shooting it on land would be like throwing one of those instead.
Yeah.
Not like a bullet.
Sense. But, you know, it's Bond. He's got a perfect shot.
God, with any sort of weapon.
Whatever it is. And gosh, I did love when they were shooting the discs. I don't know what that's called. Guys, I don't know much about guns.
Skeet shooting, yeah.
That's what it's called. And Largo's like, you just say pull and then you shoot. And Bond's like, oh, do you mind calling it for me? It seems terribly difficult. And then he shoots from the hip.
Yeah. I'm
He's
curious.
Like, oh, maybe not.
If that was actually shot. Like you could take the shot various times to make it happen. So I assume that he did shoot it.
Or you could have a sharpshooter off screen. And so when the fake gun goes off, that's the same time that someone fires the real gun. Like
it'd be cooler if it was him, though.
Oh, yeah. Kind of like, I don't know if you saw any of the Alien movies, but I think it was the fourth one when Ripley shoots a basketball over her head backwards and gets a swish. and that happened in reality, and the shot was almost ruined by one of the actors being amazed by it.
I mean, in universe, still amazing.
Oh yeah, it's a clever, fun thing, but you know, once Domino gets involved with her Geiger counting camera that still angers me.
It can do two things.
Yeah, but what was the point of the watch? I just hate it so much. She gets in and is immediately captured by Largo, and Largo's like, "You're with Bondage, one of his toys," and starts torturing her. But
yeah,
I'm all sorts of confused at this point, because at some point Largo has to go get the bombs.
Yeah. Where is it?
So he has to leave his torture session. And
well, the bombs
just...
I feel like, where is it? Looking for the plane. Yeah, brother died. Bond gets secretly with Largo to go get the stuff, and later on the torture happens. So the Largo, Bond is in disguise because scuba suits, goes with Largo to the reef cave. And
that's right.
Then that's when I was like, oh, they made these cool sets underwater. I was focused on that instead of the above water sets. And I was like, there's so many underwater shots. It feels like the camera setup must have just taken off, and they're like, oh, we can do this, so let's do it. But since you said the documentary team,
and I mean, that might be how it was, where they were like, yeah, let's try this, let's challenge ourselves. But at the same time, it does feel like so many shots feel like they were shot by a documentary crew, because they're very wide and they show a lot of things at once, because you got to get as much as you can. But then eventually they get the courage to do some close-ups and to do some really dynamic shots. And those underwater moments I'm good with, when they're really close up and you can see the actor's eyes and you can see the action happening. But when it's a wide shot and I've got a million people to keep track of, I'm just like, this sucks. It's a slow motion battle because no one goes fast underwater.
Yeah, that's a good summary of the whole. Let's find each other in different color suits, because that makes sense for most movies. They have to do it.
Yeah, you gotta have a visually distinct way. But I imagine if this were real life, it would be everybody in black suits.
Yeah,
because
100%.
I don't think the Coast Guard is going to show up in red short shorts.
Yeah.
And those navy or those bright blue goggles, and there's just so much of this underwater scene that I'm conflicted about, because I like that they had the courage to do it. I like that they had a vision and they followed it through. I hate that it's slow because it's underwater. And I also hate that we're in shark-infested waters, but a shark doesn't show up until we are almost at the end of the fight. And,
yeah. Are the bombs still underwater at this point?
So they are able to get one bomb onto Largo's ship. And the plan is still to arm that one and blow it up in Miami. At least presumably, that's what we've got in our head. But the other one is captured in that little orange mini sub that the bad guys use. But it doesn't even matter that they have the bomb, because we find out that the Polish scientist working for Largo, who we've met maybe 3 times, he threw the arming mechanism into the water. So there's nothing that Spectre could do at this point. They have lost, and they don't even know they've lost.
I missed that part when he tossed it into.
Well, we don't see him do it. He rescues Domino and tells her, I threw the arming device in the water. So that's the resolution for that.
Is the atomic bomb with them in the final boat?
Yes.
But
I believe.
It's not the thing that blows up, because obviously. But the boat blows up and hits the thing.
I think you have to be big secret here, but I don't know a lot about weapons, especially nuclear ones. But I think you have to combine two separate elements in order to start the reaction that creates a nuclear explosion. And so if you can't physically get those two components together, it's just a regular bomb at that point. It just goes boom. It might be radioactive in that area, but I don't think you're going to have the big mushroom cloud unless you can create the reaction. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
I don't know.
It's on 2 times speed, and I just got to the Bond with the super scuba suit. He's flying in
and
underwater.
For some reason, they gave him a yellow tail so everyone knows where he is when he enters the battle. Why? Why does he have that yellow tail?
It's kind of fancy. Oh, I guess. Oh, the fancy scuba is from M or Q from before.
Q did show it to him. He didn't explain what it does. So it was on display with Q. I forgot to mention it because they don't technically talk about it. But we did see it earlier, and here it is now. It's got 2 shots, and it can provide oxygen. But once the 2 shots are done, Bond's just carrying around a very big breathing apparatus.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that he ditches it in order to manipulate some of the baddies into a boat and blow them up with an underwater grenade and
then stab the guy with the spear.
Yes, that happens like immediately after. So those are 2 cool things to the underwater segments.
Cool
credits.
things,
like I do like those cool things.
They're like a setup and a resolution, like a thing that happens. And
we get the payoff.
The people that are just fighting with knives otherwise and floating around.
At least 2 people are defeated simply by having their goggles pulled off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both a good guy and a bad guy. That's all that happens is their goggle gets pulled off and they're out of the fight. And then, of course, my favorite thing for any underwater fight of all time, Bond gives a judo chop.
Nice. I think I'm getting there. Yeah.
I'm
curious what the Mythbusters would have done or have done to say.
Yeah, I would love to see anyone attempt to do an underwater judo chop because he does it not once, but twice. Once it's very visible. Another time he does it pretty quickly. But both times I'm like, that wouldn't work. That wouldn't work. But he got the knife out of one of their hands, and good on him for that, I guess.
I'm trying to remember how he gets to the boat itself. Oh, he gets the little speeder thingy.
So they all get captured, and Largo grabs a speeder. Bond goes after him with a speeder, and as they're going away, we see what looks like an underwater arrest at a car.
Yeah.
All the guys have their guns pointed at other guys with their hands up in the submarine.
We caught up to you now. Everybody surface so we can talk this out, arrest you.
And of course, sharks have showed up at this point, but nobody cares anymore because now that the bad guys have surrendered, the sharks are gone again. This movie!
Shark-infested waters. Well, my rating...
But only sometimes.
My rating is going down as I get through the swimming scene again, because like the overall arc of the plan, like the heist of the atomic bombs and retrieval and getting them, enjoyable. Like
pretty cool.
Villains doing something and getting it done, exciting them. And yeah, the Bond cat and mouse Wikipedia's opinion on that. It's like he's trying to find the bombs, but then the bombs are rendered useless by this other guy
Yeah, this barely seen guy.
So he doesn't need to have found them. Like, you could just like have, I don't know.
Yeah. And I do like when they finally get back up to the boat. I like that the yacht can separate.
Yeah.
They call it a cocoon. And they leave a bunch of henchmen behind to get blown up by the Coast Guard.
Yeah. Giant destroyer. Man, here's a giant
and I
ship.
do like, yeah, it's a very big ship with very big guns. So I enjoy that, these Bond movies are able to get like real military weaponry in these movies. And that's pretty cool. And I'll give this movie credit there as well. I do enjoy the fist fight on the boat. Again, it could have been shorter, but I love the fact that there are 3 people fighting Bond and he's able to take out a few of them, one of them even with a chair. And then a 4th guy comes up just bringing in drinks and he gets beat up too.
It looked like he was just bringing drinks. There's a fist fight going on.
He doesn't know what's going on.
Right.
I don't even think he knows that the cocoon has been separated. He's just coming up with champagne.
I'm curious how many seconds there are from Largo, not Vargas. Largo gets shot at 2:07:30 and dies. And when does the Skyhook plane drop? It's packaged.
It's very shortly after, because right after he dies, he jams the controls of his yacht, so it's going to crash. And so the 3 good guys have to jump off the boat, and the Polish guy's like, I never learned to swim. Bond gives him one little thing, a little donut, and he's like, never too late to learn. Good luck out there. And then the raft gets dropped, and only Bond and Domino get on it. So I guess the hero of this movie just dies.
Yeah.
Because the hero to me is the scientist who threw away the stuff.
It is 40 seconds from when he gets jammed in the controls that the Skyhook gets dropped. And it is only 2 minutes from him dying to them getting Skyhooked out of the water.
Yes. It is such a fast turnaround from conflict to conclusion.
They usually have a little bit more of a what do you call it? The downturn.
Like an escape, at least?
Yeah, and just a little bit more chatter at the end of it. But
yeah, like something between Bond and the leading lady where they can flirt a little bit. But bang. He pretty much buckles in, inflates the balloon, grabs her, and then they go flying away. That's it.
It seems such a difficult way to get picked up, but
and every time I see it, I put myself in Domino's shoes, and I'm like, she's not strapped into anything.
Yeah,
she just has to hope that she and Bond can hold on to each other hard enough that she doesn't die.
Yeah.
Oh, my hands are sweaty just thinking about it.
And that's how it ends.
Yep. Now, my closing credits seem to end early because, they just stopped when the music stopped and the credits were still rolling.
Huh.
So I didn't get to hear Bond will return in blah, blah, blah. That wasn't displayed on this movie, at least for the copy that I have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just the case for every copy or what, but yeah, we've made it through this movie that has all the elements of a good Bond movie and just doesn't know how to put them together, my opinion.
Does not quite work as fun as... I'm trying to think which one did I like, where it was like, oh, the spy parts seem like a good beginning. I feel like I'm thinking of Russia, where that one started. Maybe.
Yeah.
Not going to be my favorite It's not gonna.
Well, why don't we talk about ratings? We on this show, we rate things on a scale of 1 to 10, where 5 is the middle. That is the difference between a rating and a grade. In a grade, you are going for a C or a 70, and for some reason we say 7 out of 10 is the middle, and that's just mathematically incorrect. So we're setting the record straight. We're saying that in this universe of potato chip pictures, if we give something a 5, we think an equal number of people are going to like it or dislike it. So with that said, Justin, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give Thunderball?
You really have to like action that's not like planned out in the same way that something in the vein of the Bourne trilogy feels more mysterious and but still grounded in reasons why things are happening. I wanted to originally go 5. I feel like fewer people would actually like it though. Because I don't like it. It's not. If I'm average, I probably wouldn't watch it a second time. The underwater is just such a huge part of it, and it's sometimes fun.
But not enough fun.
Not enough fun. Yeah. Interesting things, but if you were bored by the previous 2 minutes of underwater things, you might miss this thing that's also happening, like getting stabbed in the face, or the misdirection, and then like underwater hand grenade thrown into the where he faked where he was and left his old packet, and they came in and he blew him up. Like that is a fun use of, oh, they looked for the bubbles where, oh, they went in there, oh, he blew him up and he swims away victorious. Oh, cool. The other parts.
And not only that, immediately next, he grabs a guy's spear gun and stabs him in the eye. Like, the 2 best underwater sequences happen back to back.
Well, the rest of it is not very inspiring.
Plus, they shoot a shark for real.
Yeah, that one's not fun.
I just can't get behind that. I like sharks. I think they're cool.
4.5.
4.5.
First one with a point, I think.
Yep, I'm willing to accept it. Even though we don't have enough of an audience to worry about this, I would be remiss to say this is the 9th book in the franchise. Now that I have my rating chart open, that's where I also wrote down the book numbers, just so you know. So we skipped the 8th book, and obviously 1 through 4, but we'll get to all of those. But for this Thunderball, I said it at the beginning, it has all of the ingredients of a great Bond movie, and it just doesn't know how to put any of them together. And there's very few moments of genius, and I will give the movie credit for its genius. And to me, that includes the set design from Ken Adams and the character of Fiona Volpe. And to a lesser degree, I will give Paula a shout out. I wish she had more to do with the movie, and that might contribute to my criticism. I think Largo is a very forgettable villain. He's just a guy with an eye patch. Yeah. Otherwise, he's so boring. He's just got an army of henchmen. A few of them are prominently bald, and they're the easiest ones to recognize, but otherwise nobody really cares about his henchmen.
Yeah.
They don't matter to this movie.
Volpe is the only one that is
determined
to kill Bond.
And she's underutilized. She's the best villain in this movie, and we don't get enough of her. And so for me, I'm taking it all the way down to a 2. Ooh. Like, I just think this movie is garbage. I hate this movie. Like, I have been trying to pretend that I'm kind of, leaning towards the negative, but what I have not told you all week, ever since we recorded last time, and I told you I was going to watch the movie, I've hated this movie for the whole week. I might have raised it from a 1 to a 2 because I was like, well, there are moments that are really cool, but this is my least favorite, at least that we have seen so far, and definitely of the Sean Connery movies. This one, I think, sucks. This one can be skipped. This one is horrible.
I think if you could just take the shark, actually where the guy's getting tossed into the sharks, and the villain Spectre lair where the chairs are, those are probably the things you walk away putting into the Bond canon.
Yeah. It's got glimpses of peak Bond in it, but not enough to justify watching the whole movie. Like, just look up an image search of Thunderball and you'll probably see all of the best things about the movie.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot going for it. So between the two of us, that makes for an average of 3.25. I'll be very interested in seeing if there's any other movie that goes lower than that.
That's promising. I don't know that.
I hope so. I'm trying to remember who our next Roger Moore. I think there are a few Roger Moore movies that I hate as well, but we'll have to get to those to see if it's true. But at least for Sean Connery, Thunderball is my stinker. That's the one that I'm like, no.
I'll pass for that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we made it through. I feel like that was a Herculean effort on our part.
How long is the next one? Let me see. I've got the DVD. You Only Live Twice.
Mm-hmm.
Why does it have a dumb name? 117 minutes. What?
I'm going to say this again next week, but I'm going to let the audience know now that this You Only Live Twice is not my first Bond, but it was the first Sean Connery Bond I ever watched. So it has a special place in my heart as being the movie that introduced me to Sean Connery's Bond. I was just watching it on TV one day and I watched it all the way through and I was like, I got to watch these older movies at some point.
That's cool.
So I'm looking forward to it. I've been kind of excited to get to this one.
Well, that's exciting. The back cover has a picture of the main villain who's bald and holding his white cat. So it'll be nice to see him.
Oh, we're going to meet number 1 possibly. Yeah. Well, I want to thank our audience for listening. We have slowly been getting more of you over these past few weeks. So if you want to give us a rating or a review, if you want to like us, wherever you are, do the thing that platform allows you to do. That helps us out so very much. We do make shorts for TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, so you can follow us on any of those platforms if you want to support us there. And you can email us at potatochippicturespod@gmail.com. Maybe you want to give your 2 cents about any of these movies, or you want to tell us your favorite memory, or why you love the underwater fight scene.
It's
from
so
Thunderball.
much better than we give it credit for.
Yeah, be the third host of this podcast by emailing us and letting us know your thoughts, and we'll read those on the air at some point. So
okay.
Until next week, I am B. Sammy Davis.
I'm Justin. Thanks for listening.
James Bond and Potato Chip Pictures will return in You Only Live Twice. Goodbye!
Bye.
Excellent. I think we did it. I think we made another podcast.